Hello and a very warm welcome to all. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aisha Varma. We now shift focus to Europe, where forest fires are keeping parts of the continent on edge. Severe wildfires are straining emergency services, with persistent heat and drought making the situation even more difficult. For more on this, let's cross over to Thomas Sparrow, correspondent for our partners DW in Berlin. Thomas, how bad is it across Europe right now?
167,000 hectares have burnt so far in Europe this year. There have been over 1,000 wildfires in the continent. That's less than in 2025. 2025 was a record-breaking year here in Europe, but these two figures are above the long-term average. What they tell us is that the problem of wildfires is becoming more and more challenging across Europe. Yes, some countries are more affected than others, particularly in the southern part of the continent. So Spain, France, Portugal, Greece, Cyprus, these are countries that are usually more affected by wildfires than countries in other parts of the continent. But what experts have warned is that the problem of wildfires has also begun to affect more and more countries that in the past were not so affected by this problem. That includes, by the way, Germany, where we are reporting from. In this particular case, this summer has an additional component that has experts concerned and on high alert. June was a very hot month. There were heat waves in several parts of the continent. It was a dry month as well. So what this means is that the season began very early this year and has experts, firefighters, authorities, and other people on the ground particularly concerned about what could become a very long wildfire season this year here in Europe.
Is there coordination, Thomas, between the European countries in dealing with these fires?
There is coordination, and in fact that coordination is growing. The European Union stressed that it had deployed its largest ever wildfire response presence in Europe for this particular summer, for the summer of 2026. Over 700 firefighters across Europe from 14 countries are being pre-positioned in regions, in countries that are particularly affected by the situation. In addition to that, European Union officials are also using technology to try and help be better prepared when it comes to potential wildfires that are coming. That includes, for example, using satellite imagery. That includes also using AI to be better prepared. So in general, there is an increasing sense from Europe that the continent needs to be much better prepared. In addition to that, there's also an emergency response system. So essentially what that means is if a country, let's say Portugal or Spain or France, are particularly overwhelmed by wildfires, then they can request immediate assistance by other countries in the continent. That just shows you that Europe understands that this is a problem that is not going away and that needs coordinated response in order to better deal with the situation.
Wildfires are not new, but they do seem to be getting worse. What exactly are authorities doing to prepare for future fire seasons in order to reduce the risk?
European officials have stressed that wildfires are beginning earlier, that they are becoming also more dangerous and that they're lasting longer, and that it's no longer simply a phenomenon that happens every now and then, but that is something that Europe needs to be prepared for every summer. And that's why, in addition to these response efforts that I mentioned, so pre-positioning firefighters, also having aircraft, helicopters ready, also using technology, they are focusing specifically also on prevention and preparedness. That, for example, includes a better land management, so helping specific regions to better manage their land resources, also focusing on recovery specifically for areas that have been affected by wildfires in the past. What all this shows you is that European officials have understood that this is a problem that goes beyond national borders. Okay, it is clear that maybe the first response comes from national authorities, but that if you look at this from a wider perspective, if you look at this as a problem that affects all of Europe, it needs specifically a coordinated response from European officials. And that coordinated response is not only once the wildfires have started, it's a response that needs to happen before the wildfires actually start. And that's why European officials are focusing also on that keyword, preparedness.
All right, Thomas, thank you for joining us and bringing us those details. With that, it's a wrap.
25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.